to take a look at all of the lives that you could have lived if you had just made one different choice. Would you? Hello my friends, my name is AJ and welcome back to my book nook. Today we're going to be going back to doing just a regular review. No defense of old movies from Disney and no Canadian author spotlight. Today we're just going to do an average book review. I'm going to be taking a look at The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Now, before we dive into it, I do need to give you a few trigger warnings. This book deals with discussions of depression and anxiety, as well as panic attacks, and even an attempted suicide. So if that's something that's very triggering for you, I suggest not picking up this book. If not, then you might want to give it a read. I thought it was really, really great. So this book was written in 2020, like I said, by Matt Haig, and it has quickly gained a devoted following. The book follows a character by the name of Nora Seed. She's a woman who feels like she has nothing left in the world, but no one needs her, and she decides to take her own life. However, in the place between life and death, she finds a library. And in this library, every single book represents a life that she could have had if she had just made a different decision earlier on. There are infinite possibilities, and Nora spends the next while trying out these different lives and seeing if they could have been better than what she had, and working through her own book of regrets. I really like this book, and it seems like a lot of people do. However, it does seem that there are a few people out there who don't like this book as well, and that's totally understandable. It's not for everyone. I'm going to say that right off the bat. If you find it triggering, it's definitely not going to be something that you enjoy, and if you're someone who is expecting something different when you go into it, then you're not going to enjoy it either. So I hope that this review can kind of clarify what the book is about so that you can decide up front before you even start the book whether it's something that you want to dive into or not. So let's talk a little bit about it. First and foremost, I gotta talk about the formatting for this book. The chapters are pretty short. They do vary a bit in length, but for the most part they are quite short, which I really like in books because I'm someone who can get distracted. I'm someone who doesn't like to leave a book in the middle of a chapter. So having these short chapters did allow me to have that freedom that if I needed to go grab something or go do something, I could do that after finishing a chapter and it wouldn't take super long. The chapters also all have their own names, which I also really, really like. I feel like we don't have enough books that have chapters that are named things anymore. I feel like I haven't seen books with chapter names in a very long time, so for some reason this felt very exciting and nostalgic for me. Now, diving right into the plot of this book. I've heard some people say it's a bit more sci-fi and fantasy, but I didn't really feel like that at all. It reminded me a lot of It's a Wonderful Life, or even, I don't know if this will make sense, but A Christmas Carol. In It's a Wonderful Life, obviously the plot is that Clarence the Angel is showing George Bailey what life would be like if he had never been born. This is sort of similar. We have a librarian showing Nora what her life could be like if she had just simply made a different choice. And it's definitely more so about exploring these different lives. Some of them she spends more time in than others, some of them she only spends a little bit of time in. But it's definitely more focused on that than it is the formatting of the library or the reasoning behind it. We never actually do get an explanation behind it. So if you're looking for something adventurous and sci-fi like, you're not going to get it with this. I definitely found it to be a bit more of a laid-back book. Obviously, it does deal with some more heavy topics. However, it just seemed like a very, I don't want to say relaxing, but it was definitely slower paced. I also really loved the concept. The idea of seeing what your different lives could be like is really amazing to me. I really like that idea. It's something that I've played with a lot. And as someone who has a lot of interests and constantly is thinking about, whoa, what if I had decided to pursue this passion from an early age? Would I be in the Olympics now? What if I had decided to pursue this passion from a younger age? Would I be doing this now? Where would I be? What would I be doing? It's just a really interesting idea because I sort of relate to it. Not because I feel the need to end my own life, but because I also have a lot of interest and I have a lot of wondering of, what if I had pursued this instead? What if I had done this instead? Where would I be with my life? And so I found it really easy to relate to this book, the idea of going through these different lives and seeing what you could have done differently and where you would end up. One of the big complaints that I have seen from people is that it's a bit cheesy, it's a bit predictable, and it's sort of in your face with the message. And I do understand where they're coming from. A lot of times when you're watching a movie or a show or a book and they feel the need to say the message out loud to you, it feels like they're dumbing it down for you. It feels like they don't think the audience is smart enough to figure it out for themselves. But that's not what I got from this book. Matt Haig, the author of the book, has been pretty open about his mental health in the past, and this book definitely comes across like someone who has struggled with their mental health, someone who has been in a really dark place and now is in a really bright, wonderful place and is able to look back and think, wow, I never could have imagined I would be here then, but look at where I've gone. And that's definitely what this book comes across as. It doesn't come across like someone who has never experienced anxiety or depression writing about it and thinking, no, just try not being sad. That's not what this book is about. That's not what the message of the book is. And I think it makes sense that Nora needs to spell these easy thoughts out to herself, because sometimes we need that. Have you ever had someone tell you something that you know is true, and you know it's true, you believe it, but for some reason, even though you can repeat it out loud, your brain still tries to convince you otherwise? You know, when you're starting university and someone says, oh, you don't have to worry, you don't have to know what you want to do with your life at this point. You're still young, you have time to figure it out. You know that they're right. You know that you have lots of time to figure things out, but you see other people around you who already have figured it out. And despite the fact that you believe it, despite the fact that you know it to be true, your brain still starts to convince you that maybe you should have it figured out. So I think in the case of Nora repeating these obviously known lessons to us, it makes sense, because sometimes you need that confirmation from yourself. You need something to convince you and convince your own mind that it's true. I also don't really mind having already known lessons and kind of obvious and cheesy lessons being told to us. I don't think every single book or film or TV show we watch or read needs to be revolutionary. I think sometimes you can tell a message that we already know. I mean, there's a reason that Hallmark is such a popular company. There's a reason that those movies come out every single year. It's because those cheesy and cliche stories work. It's because these messages that we already know about love and life work. People like them. Alright, so that's it for my spoiler-free review. If you want to see some of my spoiler-filled opinions, there aren't a lot, so it'll be a pretty short section, then you should stick around. However, if you haven't read the book and you don't want anything to be spoiled for you, I would skip. I will have left a timestamp down for you below. Alright, my spoiler friends, let's get into it. So first and foremost, we do meet some other sliders in the book. We meet one other person who also is going through these different lives. I don't see why that was necessary. We're introduced to him very briefly. We see him again in another life very briefly, but that's it. I thought we were going to go into it more. I thought that we were going to get a bit more of an explanation. It was almost like a tease that we were going to get more information. But nothing ever really came of it. I thought maybe there was going to be this big reveal about the truth about the Midnight Library, but there wasn't. It just didn't seem like it made sense to include that because it didn't really add anything to it. I mean, it revealed that there are other people who are doing this and that there are other versions. Some people may have a library, some people might have a video store, whatever it is that is comfortable to them. I don't really feel like that was a necessary inclusion, especially since it didn't go anywhere. I also thought that the ending was very abrupt. Obviously, it's Nora realizing that she wants to live in her own life, that no matter what happened in her other lives, that there was always just something missing, and that she was needed and she was important in her own life. And then obviously that realization causes the library to fall down and disintegrate, and it all happens so fast, and it's such a tonal shift from the rest of the book that it really felt abrupt and sort of out of place. I just felt like the ending was a bit quick. I thought it was a bit abrupt, and I felt that the tonal shift was too out of the blue. And I just wasn't a huge fan of that. Welcome back, my non-spoiler lovers. What are my final thoughts? Honestly, I don't have a lot of criticism for this book. Obviously, this comes from a place that's very sentimental to the author. It's a really great message, and even though it's not revolutionary, even though it's a message that we've heard before, I think it's told in a really unique story. The past couple of years have been really hard on all of us, and I think having a book like this that's just an easy message that I think we just need reaffirming that there's good people in the world and that we need to be kind to each other is something that's really important. Most of the criticism I've seen online is not even criticism for the book. It's criticism for the book not living up to expectations that people had built for it. If you're looking for a sci-fi adventure book, this isn't it. If you're looking for a revolutionary message about love and life, this isn't the book for you. If you're looking for a book to take a deep dive into the experience of living with depression and anxiety, this book isn't it. Yes, it does cover that. Yes, that is the jumping point for the character, but that's really not what this book's point is. This book is about the experience of realizing what is important in your life. It's a book about discovering who you are and becoming more confident in yourself and your role in your world. And I think that sometimes it's okay to have things spelled out for you. Sometimes it's okay to want to sit down and watch something hallmarky and feel good about life. Like I said, it's been a hard year for everyone, and I think this book really ties together what we all needed to hear earlier in the year when it, came out. But overall, I think it's really great. I understand that some people had higher expectations for this, or they had ideas of what they thought this book was about or what they wanted it to be about, but I don't think it's fair to criticize the book for not being something that you wanted it to be. I think it's fair to say that maybe it wasn't effective for you, but to criticize it because it didn't do something that it never claimed to do doesn't really seem like a fair judgment to me. Overall, I would rate this book probably a 4.5 Midnight Libraries out of 5. And I would definitely recommend that if it's not something that's triggering for you, you should give it a read. But that's it for me today. I hope you liked this video. If you did, feel free to hit that thumbs up button. And if you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and stick around. And let me know in the comments down below. Have you read this book and did you agree with me on how you feel about it? Or are you someone who felt that it was too spelled out and too simple? Have you not read this book and this video made you want to? Or has this video turned you off from reading the book? Either one is fine. But let me know in the comments below. I'd love to have a conversation with all of you. And that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see all of you lovely people in the next video. Bye!